Christine Rolando, and I'm the Executive Director of Literacy Orange. And you know, reading impacts communities. Welcome. I want to talk to you and remind you that May 18th is Hudson Valley Gives. Did you know that 160 other Hudson Valley not-for-profits will participate in Hudson Valley Gives? It's our region's first ever 24-hour online fundraising event. So I want to really encourage you to go online and look at Hudson Valley Gives. This is initiated by the Community Foundation of Orange and Sullivan County, and that's in collaboration with the United Way of Dutchess Orange Region and the Mid-Hudson Valley chapter. But today I'm so excited because we have a guest on today. Good morning, Dr. Nilda Perez.
Hello, how are ya?
Good to see you today, and I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Jay and Carol Anthony from the Autism Foundation. And you're going to learn more about Dr. Nilda Perez in just a moment. But we have a common bond with Jay and Carol Anthony Autism Foundation, as we do with Dr. Nilda Perez, because Jay and Carol are our landlords at Literacy Orange. So we're grateful for the beautiful space they provide us. And Dr. Nilda Perez has a long, wow, I was impressed. I know you for a while because you're the president of the Literacy Board. But I want to read you just a little bit about this. Dr. Nilda Perez, she's really a foresight business strategist, futuristic, and she's an entrepreneur, and she delivers trends in the shape of future for companies. And, you know, I do know you a long time, but, you know, when you're going to interview someone on a radio show, although I know you from another capacity, I was really impressed with your website and your history and everything you've accomplished in your life. So I am proud to have you here as our guest. And let's start a little bit with your background. Tell us about your background.
Well, years ago I started as a social worker. And I had a practice, and I was building that practice. And over time, I realized that there was a real need, in about 2008, there was a real need for people to start their own businesses. I was also a life coach, and I suddenly started getting a huge influx of people coming to me to help them to start their business. So as a result, I went back to school, and I decided I got my doctorate in global business and strategic foresight. And so that started the whole evolution, and I saw it as such a perfect merger with, you know, my psychology background, and it was just a perfect merger. And I was able to help people begin their business and just start it out right, especially now with all of the, you know, the trends and all the changes. There's such rapid changes now, and business is just not run the same way as it was, I wouldn't tell you, even 10 years ago.
Right, I want to talk about that, but you're the founder of Foresight Strategic. Actually, let me take that back. It's called Foresight Strategies Groups, and you have the Latino Academy for Business.
Yes.
So you help entrepreneurs, you help businesses, you help organizations with innovative ideas.
Absolutely.
I saw so many things on your website, and as I said, I know you're an author. We're going to talk about your book called The Leadership Shift. And that's about strategic positioning of business leaders. But let's get back to you. Okay, so there you went off to school, and I know you have an interesting story about your own personal outcomes of going to school. Would you mind sharing that with our listeners?
Oh, I would love to. So I'm the first one in my family to graduate, firstly with my undergrad. So I was the first one to graduate from college. And my grades were so good that I went into an accelerated program, and I did a one-year master's. And after that, I decided that I was going to continue pursuing education. I was quite fascinated by education, and it came from a background that my dad only went as far as second grade, although my father was an avid reader. He loved reading. And my mom was able to complete ninth grade, where she had to go back to work. Now, my mom is 84 years old.
Where did your parents grow up in this
well, my
country
mom, no, actually, my dad grew up in Puerto Rico, and my mom is from South America, from Lima, Peru. Oh. So she came here as a child. She was about a year old when she came to the United States, and she was educated in the United States. In those days, though, things were so different. Like, you only went so far in school, and then if your family needed you to go work, that's what you did. So both my parents came from that background. So education wasn't necessarily on top of their list. They didn't even know how to get me to that place. But it was something that I was quite fascinated with at a very young age. And I went back to school as an adult, and that just totally changed my life.
And you were accelerated. You went through that accelerated program, I remember you saying. But I love the comment your dad said. I always ask you to tell, what did your dad said when you were going back to school?
Well, when I went back to school, this is how little he understood the concept. So when I went back to school, my dad tells me, okay, so I graduated with my bachelor's. So he went to that graduation, and then a year later, I'm graduating again with a master's. And he was like, "What happened? Didn't you get it right the first time?" He did that. That whole concept just didn't make any sense to him. And then when I went up for my doctorate, I totally lost him.
Well, we're proud of you, for sure, and we're grateful that you're on the literacy board, because I know one thing that you and I for sure have in common, that reading does impact communities, and your passion for education and literacy. I mean, we're working with people, you and I are working with people that are below a 4th grade reading level, and even as low as a 2nd grade reading level, right? So
Exactly.
we have a big job ahead of us, but I'm really proud to have you on our board. But more importantly, I want to ask you some questions about some of the things that our listeners might be interested in as far as their business goes. So what is the Foresight Business Strategist and Futurist? What is that all about? What do you do?
A foresight strategist helps organizations and businesses to understand the trends that create methods to forecast. What happens now, there's this huge change in businesses that people don't understand that they need to be able to forecast the changes, because you can be out of business in no
Looking into
time.
the crystal ball, so to
Yeah,
speak,
like,
right? You help them do that.
Exactly. And so where before your competition was possibly on, if you had a brick and mortar, was in your neighborhood or on your block, now that's really so extensive with the World Wide Web and competition almost coming from anywhere. So I help people to be able to forecast and predict their future.
Now, what methods do you use to do that?
So the methods that I use is we have what we call the 3 S's. We summarize, we strategize, and we synthesize. So by summarizing, we analyze what your current business looks like. When we strategize, we anticipate the trends, and we discover opportunities, and also look at possibilities of threats. And when we synthesize, we take what has worked in your business, because anybody who's been in business for some time has things that have worked, and we look at that and we synthesize that with innovative strategies.
And is that in the leadership shift? Or that's the other book?
No, actually, I'm going to be expanding on that, but part of that is in the leadership shift, yes.
Now, for our listeners, I want you to know we're actually doing a recording of this, so that's why I'm using, you can't see, we have to remember we're doing radio and TV right now.
Okay.
Well, not TV, but video.
Yeah.
Sometimes our listeners, I'll hold something up and I have to remember that they're not seeing it, so we can't shake our head yes and no, I always tease.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so you analyze a business, and it could be complicated, but you sound like you made it simple by using those 3 S's. Now, what about companies should they toss everything out when they are frustrated or something's not working, or is that when they would come to you and you would help do those 3 S's and analyze?
Well, no, we never throw away everything, because one part of the reason why we do the summary is that we want to be able to analyze what's working in their business. You don't have to toss everything and start from scratch, start new. There's a lot of innovation. A lot of innovators are saying, you need to be innovative and you need to get rid of all the old, but why would you get rid of stuff that has been working?
And I know from being involved with education that people learn differently, and people are going to be maybe good at one thing and not so good at the other, and then they can surround themselves by experts that are good at, I'm not a CPA, so I need to have a CPA, or I'm not, so we all have our gifts and our talents, and I'm sure that's what you do when you analyze business. Look at their strengths and their weaknesses.
Their strengths and their weaknesses, absolutely.
Okay, so how does someone get in touch with you if they want to learn more? How would they contact you? What's your website?
My website is Dr. Nilda, Nilda, Perez.com, drnildaperez.com.
Do you have a phone number, or is that on your website?
That's on my website, but I can give you that also. It's 845-206-4602.
Okay, so I have another question. This is off topic, but, well, actually it's not off topic, but you do serve on a not-for-profit board. And as I was looking through your website and learning so much more about you, yourself, I know your heart, but you talked about a servant leader. And a servant leader doesn't have to necessarily only be a not-for-profit or other, you can take that into your business. Can you explain that a little bit, a servant leader, what that is?
Absolutely. So a servant leader is a person that cares about, non-for-profits are oftentimes coined servant leaders. But honestly, that it doesn't matter what business you have, you can always be a servant leader. And a servant leader cares about others. And their position is, it's more than the bottom line. The bottom line and that's going to happen anyway. Like, you're going to generate income, but you're going to generate so much more if you care, truly care about your staff, truly care not just about your customer and
It's
your
not only about
clients.
making money.
It's not only about making
money. I think there's something people refer to as like giver's gain, right? Give it away, and it comes back.
Right. And the one thing I learned from a professor of mine, Dr. Winston, is he talks about agapao love. And agapao love is how you love your staff.
Right.
And that means that you think of them always. Like, they're the ones that you don't just think about your clients, but how that staff operates.
Well, let's talk about staff for a minute, because Literacy Orange is thin on staff right now. And we are looking for an ESL teacher that can teach in the evening. So I'm just putting a plug out there, because that's what's challenging for not-for-profits. As business owner, you own a small business, you're a not-for-profit, and you're doing it all, and you're trying to get over that that hump to grow your business. But again, you could be good at this and not good at that, and maybe it's a cash flow issue. How do you address that with business strategists, as a strategist? What do they do? What does the business do?
One of the things that we need to, as a nonprofit, you really need to have a very strong board. Your board is really part of, because there's so much that hinges on volunteers. So that's really important, having a good board, and then also looking at finding strategies where you can actually get people engaged.
All right, so we're going to hold that thought, and we're going to be back in a moment, and we're excited you're here, Dr. Nilda Perez.
Okay.
All right, so now what we'll do is, that was
The
good.
mic is right in front of your face. The mic is sitting right
Did
in
you
front
pause?
of your face.
Huh? Oh, to my face?
Yeah.
But it-
Yeah, that's always the thing with radio. I always find that my, did you pause?
You cannot pause on an iPad.
Oh, okay, so that's all right.
Tighten it the other way. Tighten the other way.
Oh, all right.
Can I see it?
We're going to go to the caller first. We're going to go to the caller first, and then.
All right, we're coming back.
And we're back. I'm Christine Rolando, the host of the Not-for-Profit Notebook and the Executive Director of Literacy Orange, and I'm here today with a special guest, Dr. Nilda Perez. Hello again.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing strategies for business owners, and we were talking about our board as a not-for-profit strategist. But before we do that, I believe we have a caller, so let's take our call. And who's on the phone today? Hi, Brian. This is not planned at all because I asked Brian to share with us a little bit about Hudson Valley Gives. This is Brian from Literacy Orange. So, Brian, go for it. Tell our listeners what Hudson Valley Gives is all about and how they can help Literacy Orange. And you know, that's a good point. There's 160 not-for-profits, Hudson Valley not-for-profits that participate. I was excited because I had the opportunity to meet with the United Way Executive Director, Jeannie, and she shared this with me. And I said, oh, we need to be involved in this. And what's the date, Brian, of that?
Sure. So they're doing sort of a launch event tomorrow, May 18th. And the way that it's going to work is they're breaking the day into sort of quarters, 6 hour blocks. And it's sort of a friendly little competition between all the member organizations to people to call in and give donations, and really is going to be giving sort of incentives to different groups. So, you know, for example, the organization raises the most money from exams will be given a prize, and there are also prizes for the highest average donation, the lowest average donation, so, you know, even if you're only get $5, you know, help your favorite charity, you know, win some money. And they're doing, like I said, and then there's also prizes for overall total. So, you know, if you call in at 6 o'clock.
I think I lost our caller. But, oh, okay, you just bleeped out there for a minute. All right, so this is a way for our listeners to help not-for-profits. This is the Not-for-Profit Notebook. The show is about our community serving. We were actually just talking about being a servant leader, putting others first. So we're going to encourage our listeners to go to the website and HudsonValleyGives.org. Brian, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. And Literacy Orange obviously is one of those, along with 159 other agencies. But thanks, Brian. Have a wonderful day, okay?
Thanks for having me. You too.
All right, so we're getting back here with Dr. Nilda Perez, and we were talking about being a servant leader. But let's talk about that again, the servant leader piece in the not-for-profit world a little bit.
Well, the servant leader is the person that cares about other people, others, whether that be your staff or a client, or you know, in a nonprofit even more so. So
And we were talking about boards, right? The importance of our boards.
Importance of our board.
Right.
The board has to be very selfless, and as most boards are, and that's really important. So these people are giving their time because this is free. They're giving their time because they care about the cause, they care about the people, and they care about the ultimate outcome. So bringing it to Literacy Orange, that's part of, we're very passionate about, the people on this board are very passionate about education, very passionate, and education starts with reading. Like, you cannot be educated if you can't read.
Reading impacts communities is my bumper sticker.
Absolutely.
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 So, Literacy Orange, we have a couple new board members, don't we?
We do,
Who
and
are
that's
they?
really
Tell our
exciting.
listeners who they are.
Well, we have Manny Figueroa, and we have Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
We have, I'm sorry, was it?
Well, we have another one that we're not allowed to mention yet because they haven't formally accepted, but we have a very strong board, and we have you in the leadership as our president. So, again,
Yes.
we're grateful.
Yes.
And if I have known anything about you, that you do have a servant's heart. But on the other side, you're so businesslike too. Like your website, let's give our listeners your website because it is chock full of nuts of so many resources. So give your website, please, again.
So my website, if they go onto drnildaperez.com, they will have the access also to the Foresight Strategies group and to the Latino Academy for Business. So those are the two websites, but that's going to all be under drnildaperez.com. And there's so much information
Oh my
there.
goodness, there's so many great articles. I wish we had more time because I always have been interested, you know me, in this emotional intelligence. So I saw that, I always am interested in the brain. So I saw this on your website. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to perceive, control, and evaluate emotions. We have a few minutes. Just come on, let's talk about that before we have to go.
Okay, awesome. So, well, with emotional intelligence, it beats that, that quotient was always intelligence, right? The intelligence quotient, but that's really difficult because there are so many people who come from different backgrounds and different, not just even educational backgrounds. So that doesn't mean that one person is more intelligent than another. If you haven't been privileged enough to learn traditional learning, that doesn't mean that you're not an intelligent person. So when this was brought out, when they started exploring emotional intelligence, they realized that there was a real level of intelligence in people that were not necessarily all educated the same way, not the same level of education,
Right.
yet they were intelligent. And this goes back to Edward Thorndike, who was back many years. But then that also changed with Darwin, and then there's Daniel Goleman, and so many other strategists that brought it even more to light.
You know, I've always worked with children in my former years, now working with adults, but sometimes I think we put too much weight in our traditional education about the test. What is it going to be at the end of the outcome for the test? And I know I can put a child on a horse and I can teach them math and alphabet on the back of a horse by that sensory input.
That's
So,
innovation. You see
yeah,
how it all
and
comes together?
It does, and people do learn differently. I mean, they might have an extremely high IQ, but their performance IQ, there's a disparity between there, right? So
Right.
now there's going to be maybe there's a learning disability. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. They just learn differently, right?
Right, exactly. So with emotional intelligence, there's more perceived emotions. How do they connect with others? How are they able to learn things? So it's all of this is part of understanding their emotions and understanding how they connect with other people. So that's emotional intelligence. And I have to tell you, they have learned, Goldman was the one that said, this is really important for work. Because especially now, culturally, there's so many cultures in the United States, and because we work in a global environment, like everything is global, we're interacting, even on Facebook, we're interacting globally. So the emotional intelligence quotient is very important.
Well, I agree, and I'm glad to find that article on your website today and looking at all the different things you do. I wish we had more time because you have so many things to offer people. The Leadership Shift, that's a tongue twister. That's the name of her book, but The Leadership Shift, try to say that a few times, by Dr. Nilda Perez. Where can our listeners get this book?
You can go on Amazon.
Or locally, actually. We have a bookstore right here in Warwick also, right?
We do.
So we can get it right in the local bookstore. We always try to keep things local as well.
That's right. Yes.
All right, so I want to do one thing before we're going to have to wrap up in a moment, but we, again, are Literacy Orange, NewYork.org. So it's literacyOrangeNY.org, and you know how to get in touch with Dr. Nilda Perez. She's the president of our board. And we want our listeners to seriously think about Hudson Valley Gives.
Yes.
Hudson Valley Gives is coming up on May 18th. 160 other not-for-profits will be there ready for a 24-hour online fundraiser, and we want you to help support Hudson Valley not-for-profits. Dr. Nilda Perez, anything to our listeners before we close out?
You know what? Yeah, be educated, learn, read. I tell you, reading is so important. You can learn just as much by reading as you can and go into formal education. So just because you're not in college, it doesn't mean you don't read. Read as much as you can.
Reading impacts communities, right. And open books, open doors. That's another little phrase I'd love to have. So we're grateful for you being our visitor today, and we're grateful for the station and Jay and Carol Anthony, the Autism Foundation. Thank you so much, and we'll see you Tuesday, June 14th on our next show.